Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be looking at everything you wanted to know about GIS data tools, but were afraid to ask. We have offered this webinar a number of times. It's always super popular. We really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy days to join us. We also really appreciate everyone who sent in questions ahead of time. We've tried to incorporate them in one form or another into the questions that we want to cover. So there will be a time for Q&A at the end, or if you have questions as we go through the material. I am thrilled to be doing this with my colleague, Stevie Field-Chevez. Hello, Stevie, how are you?
Hi, Elisa. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. It's going to be a fun webinar, I have no doubt.
I know. It's been a really busy week. Somehow it's only Tuesday, but it feels like Friday. We have been cramming a lot in. So we are really excited to do this. Between the two of us, we're going to be able to get a lot of information out to these folks. And so why don't we just get started? Let's dive in with the first question. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay. I just want to make sure that my screen is, oh, there we go. Now I'm sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, so we are going to dive in with our first question here, which is not showing on the screen. There we go. That's much better. What is a GIS map layer? Do you provide any? And can I add more? So I'll start off with the first one, if that's all right, Stevie, and then I'll hand it over to you. So a GIS map layer is when we take a data variable of some kind and we show it dispersed over the geography of a region. So that can be something like a tax incentive, it can be zoning information, we can be looking at all kinds of stuff, broadband access, hospitals, post-secondary institutions. There's lots of stuff, but basically the idea is it is a data variable that we show superimposed on a map, and that means it's visual, so people can automatically understand what's going on. Stevie, why don't you want to talk about the data that we provide with our GIS mapping products?
Absolutely. Just for everyone, this isn't it's not a sales kind of webinar, but we do want to show examples so you kind of have a better understanding of some of the things that we're talking about. Technology is so much better to kind of see. Really, a picture is 1,000 words, especially when talking about technology. So, Elisa, if you will pass me over the screen, I'm just going to show a couple. Thank you. Okay, I've got several different sites up here, show my screen. So this is one of our clients, South Carolina Power Team, and the reason I want to show this site is because it's a great way of using the map layers. You can see we provide several map layers, just probably, I don't know, 18, 20 different map layers. We can connect directly to your ArcGIS server and get those data map layers automatically updated. And I always love creative map layers. I think it's just really kind of neat to have some of those. But one of the things about the map layers I really wanted to show on this particular example is wastewater capacity, for example. That is something that they provided us with, and you can see they've got this really cool little icon down here on the screen, and it's going to show you a little bit about the information that you're looking at, as well as contact information. It can show additional information, so those little pop-up map layer kind of icons are really helpful. Waco, Texas also did an amazing job on their map layers. They have everything from water and sewer lines, so I can see what size pipe goes up to each individual parcel on their map, which just provides me a ton of information if I'm looking at available sites or buildings and want to know a little bit more about the water capacity lines. So yes, we can absolutely add additional map layers. We can work with your county GIS or city GIS department to get those. We can also get them in the form of a shape file.
Excellent. So that's really important. And if you have, as you said, like Esri server, for example, we can connect to that to add that. Beacon Council is a great example of that, that lets us see those mapped out. basically, if you've got something in a mapped format, then we will do our best to incorporate that. We also have clients who are subscribers to Shmura, for example, for Jobs EQ, and that's something that we could put in there. And I'm just going to grab the controls back for a second here, Stevie, just so I can show another example, which is from the Powering Florida FPL site, where they're subscribers to FDI markets, and so that's something that can be added in there. So we can show 7 years of greenfield investment data so that it's possible to see that information. I'm just going to scroll up so you can see the whole thing here. So you can see by projects, by jobs, by investment amounts, by country, and be able to filter those in, even look at individual projects if you wanted to drill down into there and see what those are all about. So lots of really cool stuff that allows us to show data that we're bringing, but also add that information if that's something that you have access to.
Absolutely. I love map layers. I think they show such interesting pieces of information that just really assist in the due diligence process in a community.
Absolutely, and I'm showing here the Beacon Council Miami-Dade site where they're using data layers also from their Esri server. So lots of really cool stuff around special zones, land use zoning parcels. I think they have submarine landing sites. There's all kind of cool stuff in there that we can take a look at. So yeah, so that kind of gives us an idea of what's going on when it comes to the GIS map layers, and also the ability to add more. That's certainly something that you can do. I'm going to take us over to our next question. What is a property feed, and do I need one? I'm going to hand this over to you, Stevie.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so a property feed, no, it is not required. Every client is very different. And by the way, I am a former client. So I've been in the shoes of you economic developers running an organization and trying to figure out how to get my properties in there. So a property feed is, it's a connection, if you will, that comes from another source. It can be a broker firm, it can be an MLS or a real estate association, or a third-party company like Resimplify or Catalyst. And the property automatically uploads into your application, so you don't need to enter the property information in on your own or have brokers do it directly. No, you don't need one. We understand very clearly that this is a pain point for all of our clients. It's just getting properties in the system. Elisa and I do a bunch of different webinars every year for different clients on teaching people how to upload properties into the system. But I think that there's so many different ways that you can get properties in. I don't know that it's needed, but it can make your life a little bit easier, especially if you have a large geographic area. We work with these other vendors. Again, I mentioned Resimplify, Catalyst, because they're the ones that we work with more specifically. And so they've got their different methods of getting properties into the system that can be very customized, or it can be more about what you have. But also always check with your local MLS or real estate association companies that are local to you. If they want money maybe to list those properties, you might consider providing them these properties brought to you by, and then their logo and contact information in the application at the bottom of the property card. That might be one way to do it. So there's ways that you can do that without having to come up with additional money. No, you don't need one. We can work with your area brokers to get properties in the system. We have found a great way to get brokers more involved is the administrative assistants and the marketing assistants who work with the different broker firms, who can add, delete, and modify properties for multiple agents at a time. We can also give the same level to your communities. So any and all of this apply to get properties into the system. We really try to help you be successful with that without having to go to a third-party agency and pay an additional fee. However, we do know that that has worked for some clients. So we'll walk you through that, provide you with a list of your options, connect you with the right people so you feel very comfortable with your choices and what you ended up doing with your system.
So I just want to say, because I know we have some Canadians on the call with us here today. In Canada, we work with Spacelist. We have partnerships with others that we've worked. with as well, so that we offer these solutions. And we have clients in 14 countries around the world. So wherever you are, part of the goal for us is to, our client services team will work with you to find the custom solution that works the best in your region. And that is going to change from place. Sometimes there's a local MLS, as Stevie said, sometimes it's about getting a RETS feed from your broker. We will work with you on that. Now, if you do have a property data feed, there's a variety of ways to set this up where it can pull at different intervals. If you have people manually entering, then it can send them prompts at intervals every 2 weeks, every 30 days. Is this property still available? Is this property still current? Does it need to be listed? So there's all sorts of ways to ensure that the inventory of properties that you've got is kept up to date in your tool. Now, I just see a question from Beth. Can we specify the top properties that you want to appear each time Zoom Prospector is open? And I know that we can definitely add banners like featured or certified sites or things like that. Stevie, we can adjust the order in which they appear. Do you know the answer to that one?
Yes, we can have it random, or we can have those featured bannered properties show up first on the application, and which is great because it gives a little bit more incentive if you're wanting to get a broker involved, or maybe you've got some brokers who are members of your organization, and that's how you're offsetting. You know, you're saying, hey, for every membership, you get 3 featured properties, and those come up first. So there's a definite advantage to having those up there first. But so yes, we can absolutely do that. And yeah.
The other thing I would say here is that you're not in this on your own. If you're working with a tool like Zoom Prospector, the other thing that we can do are training webinars and doing outreach for your local brokers. We have kinds of different resources, turnkey materials, PDFs, infographic you can send them just so that you can help build that rapport with them so that they understand that a tool like this is designed specifically to get as many eyes as possible on their featured properties, on their listings, and that you're working with them to drive more leads to them. And that's part of what we offer, is those kind of overviews, so we can invite them to a webinar, for example, and explain to them how this works and how this benefits them. All right. Should I move us over to our next question?
Let's go for it.
Why this is not showing up, I can't tell you. All right, we already answered this one. Can I map industry clusters?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, perfect. We talked about local data, so I'm going to take us over to the next one. How can I map industry clusters? Should I pass the baton over to you here so you can present?
Absolutely. I will show my screen. I've got a site up here. One way that we can do this is very similar to what Conway, South Carolina did. This is right there on their website. This is one of our mapping intelligence components. And what they did is they provided us with the NAICS codes that make up these different clusters, key industries, and we turned on our business data, which is provided by Info USA, now known as Data Axle. Which is updated as they update their information, your information updates. And so it's updated just on the fly. And it's all interactive. And this is one really creative way to map industry clusters. I'm getting the actual name of the companies that make up these clusters for this particular client. We can do this with any NAICS codes combination, and you can kind of list it however you want on your website. This is all just kind of part of the package. And you can actually have the same cluster. We can turn this on the GIS application as well. So this portion lives outside of the GIS application, which is what we provide, and we will provide you with this. And then in the GIS application, it would also be in there too. So it would serve in both places, so your user can find different key industries and industry clusters in your area mapped interactively. So I can really kind of get into the weeds on what companies make up these clusters for you.
So can I just say, from a marketing perspective, because of course I always think of this from the perspective of place marketing, that this is so important, because if you have dedicated pages on your website for key industries, obviously this will benefit site selectors. This is for attracting investment, but this is fantastic for your existing businesses as well, really for all of your community stakeholders. So taking the data, this data lives in Zoom Prospector as well. But to get there, most people have a link that says site selector. Your existing businesses, your community stakeholders may not think of clicking on something that says property database or site selector. Taking the data out, slicing and dicing it in this way, and putting it in these additional standalone tools that can be pasted on any one of your website pages is so important for SEO, because you've got these juicy keywords that you see over there, like professional services, retail, tourism, manufacturing, that will help people land on your website. These might be the pages that they land on. So this is important both from a site selection perspective, obviously, but it's fantastic for your existing businesses. They can map suppliers, they can map competitors. They get a visual representation of the business data in the region, which is a really big part of guiding business decisions for your existing businesses. So I just really love this, and this is something that when I work with clients that I recommend to all of them to do that, to take advantage of these standalone tools and build them into your website as well. And then obviously, as Stevie has said, you're going to see that they're in your Zoom Prospector tool as well. So we know that they're there. Okay, so I'm going to bring us over to our next one, which is about virtual tours. Virtual tours are a really big deal right now. This was true certainly in the pandemic, but it's absolutely true as we move into this recovery phase. How can we integrate virtual tours into our GIS sites and buildings online tool? Should I pass this back over to you, Stevie, or examples? Okay, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, we can throw that back. I'm sorry for all the back and forth, y'all, but it's important, again, that we are able to kind of show you some live examples. And as you do your due diligence, as you're kind of looking at different, vendors of tools such as these, to kind of see what is needed and what is available to you and what each thing means. So we're just going to stay here on the Power Team site here. You can see they have custom tours that they've uploaded themselves, but on any property, at least in our applications, come the standard virtual tours. I'm clicking the property here, and there we go. So you can see we have the 360 virtual tour, the custom tour, which the client uploaded on their own, map view, street view, and then 3D rotation. So this is the virtual tours brought to you by Google. So we've partnered with Google for this. I should have probably had one up before the demo, because it does take just about a second or so to get that going. So I might get that while we kind of talk about anything else. Elisa, talk to us a little bit about in marketing how you've seen these virtual tours be beneficial to clients as they're marketing available sites and buildings.
Well, this was absolutely something that there was suddenly, this was important beforehand, but suddenly with the pandemic, it was so critical. We're seeing more and more site selection processes and decisions being made online without anyone actually going in person to visit. So our client said, help, we need something. And so we were able, because we use the Google mapping interface, which everybody is familiar with, we were able to immediately build that virtual tour button into the tool. I know you're on I think you're at a conference, so you're using the hotel Wi-Fi, Stevie.
Hotel Wi-Fi, y'all. So this is brutal. Just taking, I should have had it up before, but my demo ended about 5 minutes before this. So so it's taking a good second. But any of these sites that we're on, you're welcome to jump on and play around. You can't break them. Push buttons, click buttons, and so you can access that with probably better speed than I have here at the hotel, and you'll be able to see how that virtual tour looks. But you have the ability, it comes automatic with all of the properties that are in the system. You don't have to do anything. It's actually usually super fast, and you have the ability to share it, which I know we're going to talk about here more later. So I want more of an aerial view or an interactive view of this particular property, and it just took us from where Elisa's point was right down to this property here, so I can now more visually see the different components of this property in the surrounding area. And I'm, in an area, in a time period where we're not traveling as much anymore, tools like this make it so helpful to get a real good feel for the location of a property you might be considering.
Well, that's just it. You know, at a glance, you can see what are neighboring institutions, what are neighboring properties, what does the infrastructure look like, how does it fit into the surroundings? And that is a really big part of assessment anyway. I mean, you're going to want to get this information, whether you're traveling to that place or not. Like most humans, you know, unless you're taking a helicopter tour over, it's going to be hard to just see that as a glance. And the amazing thing is, as soon as we launched that, I started seeing clients doing screen capture video and using this on LinkedIn, featured property, and then running the, like it's just so beautiful, these flyovers that go along with the properties, that it really does make a difference to be able to understand what's going on. So that is something that is automatically added for every single property. At the same time, I like to show the custom tour. I know you showed one over there as well. Here's another example of one. This can really be anything, any kinds of media. Now, these guys are using Matterport. It's not something that we provide, but if your broker or your developer happens to have this information, any kind of immersive walkthrough, drone video. Sometimes people have 3D architectural renderings so they can capture media of that and add those in. And you can see how it really becomes possible to get a feel for a building without necessarily being there and walking through it on your own. So these virtual tours were huge. They were extremely popular. And the truth is they come with a pro. There's no additional cost to producing the original virtual tour one. That's just part of it. If you happen to have the custom tour media, let's take advantage of it. You've put the time into it. So we want to make sure that you get your money's worth on those things as well.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to bring us back into our slideshow and take us over to our next question, which should be, is there a way for website visitors to compare data about my community with other communities? And Stevie, since I've already got this here, I'm going to bring us over to an example that I love to show.
Yes.
This is something that the folks at Four Corners Economic Development use. The fact is we built Compare Communities as a standalone tool, what we call intelligence component, but we also added it during the pandemic in a very robust form to Zoom Prospector. And I love to show these guys because they actually pre-built a report that they link to on their website. And this is really cool. They recognize from the beginning, so you can see the Compare Communities tab is just up there. They say, look, we know people are usually comparing us with these other communities. This is something that we see all the time. So yes, this is still fully interactive. People can add or remove the different properties if they want to, but it's now ready to go for them. So I can go in and do a comparison at a glance on thousands and thousands of variables to see how those things stack up. And as with all of the reports and analysis in this GIS tool, what we did is add this, what I call the superpower share button. That is a superpower because from that share button, you can then share it as an email, you can share it directly to social media, or you can do what these guys did and grab the hyperlink. And that's how they added it to their website. They prepared the report, which you can do anywhere in Zoom Prospector. And then when you grab that link, you're going to drive people back to that specific instance of analysis that you've created. That's how a GIS tool becomes a marketing tool. That's really what makes it stand out. And if your goal is place marketing, if you're trying to reach people beyond, you know, the GIS data geeks, and like, I love that. I don't mean any disrespect. You know, I am very much a data geek myself, but I recognize that most site selectors, most businesses making location decisions, they don't want to engage with like super detailed, granular, endless spreadsheets. They really appreciate being able to do the analysis in an intuitive way that's easy to share and easy to understand.
Well,
So
and can you imagine gathering this information on your own? I mean, if I had to do my research, not only in my own community, but on all of the other communities that are not necessarily in my state or in my name, you know, that are community neighbors, because we all know in economic development, a lot of times your competitors are not necessarily the community next door. They could be just like Four Corners here. They've got Colorado, they've got Arizona, There's some others in New Mexico that are all listed, and so they understand that they're going for more of an apples to apples comparison of a community that they may lose projects to, and how they stack up side by side. And apples comparison is so helpful. One of the comparisons I did at one point was a community, Oxford, Mississippi, to Columbia, South Carolina. And while the population was a real big difference, because Columbia, South Carolina is so much bigger than Oxford, Mississippi, the consumer expenditures for Oxford, Mississippi were off the chain. And so if you were a small boutique, or you were looking for some great shopping, and you were looking to expand a shopping center, area, that would be Oxford would be a great way to, the numbers were there to back up the decision, which is what you're providing your end user. You're providing them all that data, and this would take, I don't even know how long to gather on your own. I can't even imagine.
That's huge. Absolutely. You're right. The amount of labor and time to be able to figure that out is really just considerable. So it's a pretty big deal. Okay. What do I do about old properties in my system? How do I keep my property database current? I know we spoke about that a little bit before, but I think it just bears repeating. How do we keep this inventory of properties fresh?
Well, I can say what we have. We have an automatic system. Actually, the funny story about this was, it was my idea like 23 years ago when I was a client. I asked Pablo, is there any way they can have some type of reminder or something to help keep properties current, because I didn't have the time to manage properties in my database. And so they created this ability for the client to select the time period, whether it's 60 days, 90 days, could be 30 days, could be infinity. You select the time period that those properties will be active and current. 30 days before expiration, the broker or the listing agent, listing property owner is going to get an email asking if that property is still current. And in the email, they can click yes or no. No automatically inactivates that property, so it's no longer forward facing. Well, yes, it's still current, just renews it for a new cycle. And if they don't click anything, which sometimes can happen, everybody gets busy, on expiration date, after a couple of more prompts, that property will then no longer be forward facing, even though it's in the system. This is super important, because finding the perfect property, but it no longer being available, will cause site selectors, business decision makers to lose faith in the data that they're seeing. So you want to make sure that those properties are current to the best of your ability. And so that gives not only the system the ability to work for you, but the brokers to engage in one click. Yes, that property is still current. No, that property is no longer still current. And you can always go in and make any changes and edits that you need. I think it's important, whatever vendor that you use, that they have a system in place that helps you do that. Otherwise, these systems can get very cumbersome if you're constantly having to go through property by property to check on the current availability of that property. So that's something that I think you need to make sure that is in your must-have list when doing your due diligence on vendors.
Got it. Okay, absolutely. I mean, people are going to be relying on this. We want to make sure that they have confidence in it. Is there any restrictions on what kinds of properties or buildings I can list? And that's an interesting question, something someone submitted earlier today. What's the optimal scale for an initial sitemap to orient a visitor to a property report? So I guess we could show what we've defaulted to after doing this for 23 years. But maybe first, do you want to talk about restrictions on, if there's any restrictions on what you can list?
It is client driven. So the only kind of property we don't list is residential. So you can have any type of property you want. It can be super, super big or super, super small, the smallest of retail to the largest of open land. And we can have categories, subcategories to make it easier for those who are searching for available sites or buildings to find what they need. They can also put in the size range of property that they're seeking. So there's multiple ways to get the end user to the type of property or building and the size of property or building that they're searching for. So no, there's no restrictions except for, I say that saying there's no residential. Outside of that, you can have any other type of property that you want. Elisa, do you have we can show a sample of the optimal scale. I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, but again, as kind of we were talking about earlier, I'm not a techie. I'm an economic developer, and so at heart, and so this is just kind of something where I just loved not only the people that I work with and just the ability to provide this information in working projects, and so this is an interesting question.
So it's interesting because usually I'm just picked one and this is what it's actually defaulting to. And I find that's a little bit closer than what we usually look at. So I'm going to just pick another one here. And just so we can see in this property, this looks much more like what we generally show so that you do have a sense of the surrounding area. People can orient. Now, of course, this is Google Maps, right? So people can zoom in or zoom out as they choose to if they want to go in. But starting this way gives them that kind of rough lay of the land around there. And then once you, let's say, want to do an analysis of the property, let's say I wanted to go in and look at demographics here. You can see that it's going to pinpoint the property for me. Starts with a 10-kilometer radius. I'm showing you Edmonton up in Canada. So I believe it's 10 miles in the US, 10 kilometers in Canada. This can be adjusted. So you can do it by drive time if you want to. And we now give you the ability to look whether it's truck drive time, car, or walking. You can do to or from this location, and you can even go by time of day. So if you want to see at rush hour what that looks like, you can adjust it in that way.
And I think that's great. We can absolutely set the map at what, I mean, you just said it. We set the map at the scale that the client, usually it's 10 miles, 10-minute radius, but we can set it closer or further away depending upon the client need. I did not mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to to Bob, I think is the one that asked that question, that he understood that he's got a little bit of control on that.
Absolutely. No, that's a very good point. All right, so that is, I'm going to take us back over to here. How do I get my brokers engaged? I think we talked about that a little bit, so I'm going to move us over to the next one. As we said, we provide lots of strategies. We offer to do training and overview webinars with your brokers. We give you materials that you can use in outreach to them. We want them to feel like they're partners in this project, so we definitely provide you with tools so you're not just, managing that completely on your own. What elements should absolutely be included on a municipality's economic development standalone website? This was another one of the questions we got this morning. I thought it was a really good one. And in this case, if I understand correctly, the idea is that you've got a town or a municipality of some kind, and they've got a website already, but the economic development department is now putting together their own website. That would be, I guess, connected to it in some way. You can link back and forth. But what would an economic development website, Stevie, I think we've done entire webinars on just this. What do you absolutely have? But it's actually a pretty cool question, because the idea of being able to start from scratch and know what best practices is so important. So absolutely, we want to make sure, first of all, that there's a map. And I don't just mean an interactive map, but literally show people where you are. Do not assume they know the geography of your region or your state or your province or your country. We need to make sure we show them. Clear contact information, again, should not have to be said, but so many websites feel like a scavenger hunt because it's hard to find a human with a name and an email address that you can reach. But beyond that, it's about value proposition, isn't it? It's about what sets your community apart, what differentiates it, what is distinct about it. And then show us some data about the people, about the business context, about tax incentives or the financial elements, wages, occupation, those kinds of things that help people get an accurate description. What do you think, Stevie? What else would we put in there?
You are so spot on. I think a website is painting a picture. You have a few minutes to paint a picture of your community, and I want to know some specifics off the go. Elisa said it. y'all will never hear me say anything more than this one. Get your contact information on your website, your direct contact information. If you're the CEO, I should be able to reach you because I'm working on a project. If you're a project manager, I should be able to reach you because I want to work on a project. So I want to know and a photo of you is also awesome because then I know if I've seen you before or I can look for you at a different conference. Share what, not only the name of your community, but the state that you're in. Do not assume people know that you're in Madison County and they're going to know what state that's in. So I would make sure and give a point of reference. You know, I was in Temecula, Marietta, Lake Elsinore, which we called Southwest California. The reason we called it that is because it gave you a vague idea, even just hearing the name of where it was in the state. But I would tell people I was 45 minutes north of downtown San Diego. So anybody who is familiar with California would know San Diego, Southern California, 45 minutes north is about where I was. So I gave people kind of a verbal picture of where I was. Data, super, super important. I think being able to back up a location decision. So once a site selector or a business decision maker or even a company that's already in your community is looking to expand, they are looking for available sites. You have that information on your website. And then you've got the backup data like the demographic data and the business data that really backs up where are my suppliers, where are my competitors, and then even the comparison numbers that we saw before. That keeps me on your website, and you are my go-to. You're the person I'm going to go to for more information because you have all of that meat in there. At least I think you call it making websites sticky too. You know, you're keeping them in the website, searching for your information, and you're the go-to for information. The key industries I think is super, super important. I want to know what type of industries you have, what makes up those industries to you, and having those business names I think are super important. It just backs that up. And where are they? You know, am I looking in an area that's underserved in you know, engineering, or am I looking in an area that's saturated with attorneys? These, you know, all questions that I want to know while I'm poking around your website. So I think all of these are important. Contact information is key information. But yeah, if you're trying to get these big projects and work with site selectors and decision makers, you need to be able to give them a reason they came to dinner, so to speak, and serve them a proper meal. So beef up that website.
And I know Victoria, I believe there were a few questions, so I believe it was Victoria asked that question. If you're looking for more information, please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to give you some other resources that we have about this.
Can I add one more thing on that last question?
Sure.
I am a 2-click rule or less person.
Oh,
so
yes.
if I have to go more than 2 clicks to find the information, it's buried too deep or it's not clear enough for me to find. I think you can keep information. We've got some examples. Elisa, if you can real quick hand me the screen. I've got a great example I'm gonna show. I'm sorry that we're kind of switching the gears. It's just, there we go. Okay, show my screen. So this is Michigan. So what I love so much about this is I know exactly right up front who I'm gonna contact. I see her picture here, I can email her, I can contact her automatically. I know exactly who I'm going to contact about anything that is related to a project or information that I'm seeking. If I want community information, if I'm looking for demographic information or sites and buildings, I know exactly where I'm going to click. In one click, I'm going to be exactly where I need to be. And then what they've done is they've broken up their information into featured sites. Why should I choose Michigan? And in some of your why choose my counties or about my county, about seems to be a big one. I don't need to see 5 pages of about your community. I really just want the meat of, you know, why you are, what makes you different. Tell me a story about your community or something that you're known for in your community. And then look at, I'm interested in opportunity zones or energy ready sites. These are going to take me into the site selection application with the search already done. That's 1 click and I'm exactly where I want to be. And the same with any information on FDI or information on business taxes and incentives. I know exactly where I'm going when I'm clicking these buttons. So there's no what we call hunting and pecking in the South, to find the information that's buried somewhere so deeply in. So I just think those are great examples. I just think they did a really good job on how they set up their site in that 2-click rule or less idea.
I love that. Actually, just scroll back down to the highlighted properties section. Yeah, just under there. To me, this is something I show all of our clients because you can filter the searches in Zoom Prospector. Each one of those map sites buttons is going to take you to Zoom Prospector, but with the search already done. And from a marketing perspective, this is all about imagining these are property assets that are important in that state, might look different in your region. They do the search already, and then they put these juicy keywords with that description front and center on a homepage. So you're starting to anticipate the needs of your target audiences and then funnel them so that they all have their own journey through the tool. Instead of just having a one and done approach to any GIS data tools, this gives you the ability to maximize the content. And because we've designed it with that share button that allows you to generate a link, it becomes a GIS tool that is also very much a marketing tool. That's really one of the things that helps to set it apart. And I think that is so, so critical. I always show that example from Michigan, so I'm really pleased that you put
I
that.
do. They probably have a lot of us on our analytics.
Actually, since you've got this over here, let me just ask the question so we don't slip back and forth. Another question, how can a small municipality showcase and promote their property database in their website? Well, I guess we've answered, this is one fabulous example of how to do that. We have other clients who do just a fantastic job. It's not about just having a single text link that you have to dig for. It shouldn't say GIS property tool, my goodness, unless you're trying to sell something to GIS people, most people's eyes will glaze over at that. So my recommendation, and I do have a document on this, is if you're trying to reach site selection folks and investors, then you can call it a site selector tool or a property tool. But you should also have other links into the content here that are business intelligence tool, community data portal, so that people who go in asking different questions will still find their way back to the content, but an existing business or someone who's looking for business intelligence won't click on something called a property tool, which is a shame because there is a lot of fantastic information that they can use in there. So it's really about creating the hyperlinks to the different parts of the content and linking to that from the website. That is really one of the critical pieces. And the second piece here is how do we promote this in other places to promote our area to site selectors? That's where the built-in social media is so important. You can share a featured property, a featured report. I'm a big fan of, like, did you know posts about demographics or consumer expenditures or labor force or wage data, whatever those things look like in your area, putting those out regularly once or twice a week or more often on LinkedIn, in groups, in email newsletters, in email marketing campaigns, in PowerPoint decks, in presentations at conferences, in trade show collateral when we all start heading back to trade shows. So there are many, many ways to do that, but you really need a tool that gives you the ability to have that share so that you can generate that hyperlink and bring people back in there. And I see we're talking about the saving here. Maybe you want to speak about the folders?
I do. I think it's so important when you're talking about saving and we're talking about just that, just a couple of clicks. Here I'm saving some properties to project X. We just called it for the sake of time. I can put as many properties in as many folders as I like, and I can access those folders at any time. You can see I've saved 3 to my project X folder here of 3 buildings that maybe meet my criteria. And then just like you were talking about our share button, I'm going to copy this link. I always suggest renaming a link. You don't want to see a bunch of code that says, I'd love for you to consider, the following properties for project X. They're going to click this, go straight into your GIS application live, looking at all of the information, not only property information, but all of the supporting data and map layers that go along with that. And they've only had to click one button in order to get to exactly what you wanted them to see. They did not need to you don't need to download and save a PDF document and send them a PDF document hoping they get it. With this, you know that hit that share button and are on your website because your analytics are going to back that. And so that share button can be used to create buttons like what we saw here on Michigan. You can create buttons like that. We can help you do this. We can teach you how to create those, or we can create them for you. And again, you do not need to register to use the share or the button to create folders. You can have as many folders as you want, and each folder can have as many properties as you want, and you can share that with whomever. It can be electronic newsletter about a new industrial park came on, and you saved some of the properties to that folder. You're going to put that on social media. So when I go back to my folder, I'm going to see all of the properties that are associated with that business park. It's just a really great way to communicate what you're looking at to what somebody else needs to see.
That's so important, absolutely. And you don't need to have a login and password. Those things are saved, and so that makes it really easy to quickly communicate what you've got and and you can save the community reports as well. So really very useful. The next question that we have is, I have a site selection tool, but it's not getting a lot of traffic. Any ideas how to increase quality traffic? And the answer is yes, we have many, many, many ideas. The first thing I do with anyone who's telling me that is I sit down with them and I do a review of their site. And I'm looking for how many clicks down is the tool. I'm looking for what are they calling it? Are they calling it a GIS locator? Are they calling it a site selection tool? Are they seeding links to different parts, the content in their GIS data tool, using different names, anticipating different target audiences? Then we look at their Google Analytics. Do they have any referral sites? So have they got their local chamber linking to them, their local small business development center linking to them, the business department at a local university? Have they been putting it out on their social media channels if they've got it? Including not just images, but links. We want to have links back to the tool. So we're looking for the different ways in which they're using that tool for outreach. Again, it's not a magic bullet. If just having it on its own is not going to magically make, if you build it, they will come. You need to take advantage of its capacity as a marketing tool in order to make those things work for us. So if this is something that if you've got one of our site selection tools, you will have my contact information. I am very happy to sit down with you and do a review together so that we can get that, ensure that we're getting as much traffic as possible to it. Stevie, the next question is about the proposal generator. Do you want to tell us what the proposal generator is and why someone can use it or why they would need it?
Absolutely. So our proposal generation system works two ways. And I don't want this to sound like a commercial. I think it's important that there are other ways to get the information in the hands of the person who seeks it, whether it's a site selector, a business decision maker, the state, or someone that you're working with. These days, less and less people are in their offices. Some people are still working from home. Less and less people are traveling. So you need to be able to package up a professional proposal, preferably in an interactive and virtual way like this. So what we did is we allow our clients to build as many proposals as they like. You can add as many properties in the proposal that you would like, and you can see they're all interactive. So I can see information about the property. That 360 virtual tour comes back. All the information about that specific property is there, as well as many tabs as I want to add. Every proposal can be completely different, and we know that different proposal requires different formats. And so this allows you to say, okay, well, we need to have different proposal documents, different downloadable documents that go along with the different properties that maybe answer the questions of the demographic makeup or the zoning or floodplain information about a particular site or building. And this lets you attach all of those documents to the proposal. Every single one can look completely different than the last, but you can reuse tabs so you don't have to recreate create them. Let's see, here's another one that we did here. It's multi-state. You can see we've got several properties. I can have 15 different tabs here if I want. I can have video, drone imagery, you name it, can all accompany this proposal. I can export as a KML file, which is important for site selectors, as well as a PDF. Once your proposal is built, you can simply copy the link. I always suggest, again, renaming the link, and you can embed that in an email, social media, newsletter. You can even embed this in your website behind a button, so when they're learning more information about their community, a virtual tour about maybe an industrial park, all of this information accompanies it. So this is just a really clean way to do it. I don't have to be in my office to receive it. I don't need a 3-ring binder. I can print it. I can look at it in the airport. I can export it as needed. It's just a very easy, compact way to get this information. And bonus, if you change it on your end, it automatically changes on the end of the receiver. So you don't have to reprint all of this information and resend. It's all clean and just done for you. Elisa, did I miss anything on that?
No, I think that's pretty succinct. I think that's excellent. Thank you. Someone asks about a budget. They're on a tight budget. Any recommendations on how to help pay for GIS data tools and website tools?
Oh, I love this question. It's a good one. It's a good one because you're thinking outside of, okay, how do I do it? It's maybe not in my budget. I'm not quite sure what to do. So Waco, Texas did an excellent job at offsetting the cost of their application by offering sponsorships. Not everybody can do that. I know it's a little bit harder in the public setting, but in some of those public-private type organizations, this might be more of an option. We've got the little pop-up window here with your different sponsors, as well as sponsors at the top of the bar. So that's just one way to do it. We can always include, you know, a logo or something somewhere else. Tight budgets, you know, your utilities are sometimes great places to locate or to kind of, you know, find some extra maybe funds that they might have some type of, you know, where they can help offset the cost for a little bit and give them their logo on the application somewhere or their information in the property card. So there are multiple ways to do that. I say get creative, and on our end, it shouldn't ever be a problem to do that. Any vendor that you're looking at, this should always be an option, as we know that we all have to do more with little. Or with less these days. And so this allows us the ability to be a little bit more creative by offsetting those funds by maybe other sources.
Absolutely. I love that. That's so creative. Another example of clients teaching us some stuff from.
Very much so, yes.
Now, we're running a little short on time, and I want to have some time for questions. So I just want to talk about analytics.
Oh, good.
Yay. Tell us what the different layers of analytics are and how they help.
Well, analytics will tell you, I apologize for the siren out in the background. The analytics are going to tell you if what you're doing is working. Are you attracting the right people? What is the amount of traffic that you're having on? Oh, that's so loud. It just is getting closer. Okay, I'm just letting that pass for a second. I'm so sorry. So it'll just validate that you have things in the right place in your website, that the things on your website are answering the right questions that your users are searching for. So what we do is we provide 3 sets of analytics. We have Google Analytics, super important. They're going to tell you the general location that people are coming from when they're looking on your website. Are they coming from a different state, a different country? That's always important. I always think you can redirect marketing dollars to those states where you're getting a lot of additional kind of visitation from on your website. What page are they coming in on? What page are they leaving on? Are they all leaving on the same page? We might need to zhuzh that page a little bit. I think that's important. The next layer that we provide you, we actually created, they're called Zoom Prospector Analytics. They're going to tell you the type of property people are searching for, the size of property people are searching for, which top communities are people looking at. So it's that second layer of information that's really going to help paint a picture of what's needed for the people who are visiting your website. What are they looking for? What what type of, or do we have the inventory that they're seeking? If we don't have enough of the maybe office buildings, Class A office buildings that different people are searching for, and we've got the analytics to prove this, meet with your developers. Let's see if we can get some spec buildings going, because we've got an amazing amount of people looking for a particular type or size of building. The third layer that we provide you is what we call lead gen ID, and they're going to tell you the name of the company on your website, the size and type of property that they are searching for, which properties they looked at, as well as the supporting reports that they looked at. And did they look at the demographic report and say, okay, within it's defaulted at 10 mile an hour, but they changed it to a 15 mile an hour radius from any particular site. And so that's interesting information. And the same on those intelligence components. Did they look at my key industries, professional, scientific, or professional services, and the names of the businesses there? For every visit they make, that lead analytic report will capture that information. So if you've got one of the big computer companies maybe looking at your community, and they've been on your website several times, and they've done a couple of searches for available properties and sites and buildings, and they've looked at the same one multiple times, and then they're looking at your workforce information to make sure that the workforce and the talent force backs up what they need for your company, and then you get an RFP for a large technology company, you can probably put the pieces together. It's just a giant help to let you know what you're doing in your website is working. Elisa, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's so critical. Look, you can't do marketing without having a sense of whether your marketing is working or not. So the first thing that I'll do with any client who wants to review their marketing is look at their analytics with them. See how many people are coming from, where are they coming from, how long are they spending there, and how are they able to make sense of the visits. Not just numbers, but what companies are coming. Is this part of what you're looking for? We have a couple minutes left, 5 minutes left, and we would welcome your questions. You would have also our questions on the, our contact information is on the screen here. If you have something that you'd like to discuss about your application or something that you're planning to do, you can reach out to us directly. We're happy to help. If you are a client and are interested in doing a marketing review, please reach out to me. I'm very happy to do that with you. And if you'd like to learn more about the tools that we offer, we're also happy to discuss that. In the meantime, however, if you have questions, I'm very happy to discuss them, as with Stevie here, where we'll take a moment to do that. You could put that in the questions field in the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen.
And I'm going to hit a couple questions I think I get asked during several different demos that I've done along the years. About billing, about the investment of the application. We can always be creative on that a little bit, and so we can spread that out over a period of time. It doesn't all have to be paid at once. There is no startup investment needed, meaning there's not okay, it's going to cost us X amount of money to build it, and then this is the amount of money for subscription in the back end. So we don't have that. It's just all kind of that one annual subscription, and all of the data is part of that. So, and we not only train you, and we have Elisa, who is just an amazing marketing and how to generate traffic to your website and different creative ways to really make the most of what you're doing with these website tools. All of our team we are specifically trained in the area that we're in. So you don't have one person that does marketing and building the applications and training you and does the customer service. We have our marketing department, Elisa, we've got our client services department with Jeff and Chris, we've got sales department, and 3 of us are former clients, so we all understand what it's like to be in your shoes, and kind of really having to be creative with how to do more with the tools that we have and the time that we have on someone's attention in a website. So lean on us for that. And a demo is always a great way for us to be able to not get an idea from you specifically, kind of more one-on-one on what you're looking for, but what is your website like now? I love to get into websites with different people who want a demo and see where we might be able to make the maximum use of some of the buttons that they already have on their website, so it doesn't need to be completely redone, and where we can add our tools to help beef that up a little bit. And so it's kind of, you know, I think what I heard once before, that you can completely redecorate a house by moving furniture around that you already have that's just placed in the wrong room. Sometimes a website is very much the same way. You can just move a couple of things around or rename a button or two, and we can do something like Michigan very easily using those share buttons and really beef up your website. So don't hesitate to contact us to kind of talk about how these tools could fit into your application.
I will also say, Bob asks, what's the next big thing in data depiction for site selection analysis? Bob, I can't go into details here about that. We are working on another big project that we will be announcing most likely at the beginning of 2022 that extends essentially our virtual capacity for visualization and tours. But you'll hear more about that in the months to come. So stay tuned. We're always working on something big and something new here at GIS Planning.
About every 3 months. I think about every 3 months we come up with something new. And I think that's one of the things I love so much about this company, is we don't just rest our laurels on what was done years ago. It's always being reinvented and expanded upon. And Bob, hang on to your hat, because what the announcement that's coming up at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, is a game changer. It's a big one. So we're excited about that.
Absolutely. And William asks, do you offer complete website development from scratch? Which is a great question. We didn't really speak about it here, but we do offer we have, I think now 7 turnkey data microsite templates. Stevie, I'll let you describe those.
It's essentially like what you saw from Michigan. Michigan is one of our templates that was created by our design amazing magician pal, and he it's all custom built for you, so it's your branding, your colors, your photos, the different buttons like you saw at the bottom that said foreign direct investment. Those are buttons that we created that go back into, you know, we're not writing all of that content. Some of those buttons are links. You can do a whole lot with links, so I never dismiss that. And then of course it has the GIS planning tools that are built inside of the application that's easy to, or inside the microsite that's easy to find. So we do have options for those. We can show you those 7. They're very inexpensive, and I mean very inexpensive, especially when you're looking at the idea of creating a brand new website. And of course the tools built in them just, and then the analytics that go with all of that, it really is almost like it's just an amazing package. So yeah, I'm happy. Just send us an email and we'll set up a meeting and we can show you what those are. And our website, gisplanning.com, has a ton of information. That website has been gone over through with a fine-tooth comb. That whole sentence didn't work out right, but that's okay. Y'all get it. So Elisa and Pal have made sure that it answers your questions. So when you call us or you want a demo, you can do that all online, and we can get back to you and schedule something at your convenience. But a lot of your questions will be answered by just looking at that website. So feel free to get in there and poke around.
And as always, you can reach out to us. We're happy to show you what those work. The nice thing about them is that you can have them up and running literally in days. Because they're templates. We just need your branding, your logos, your colors, your images. We plug those in and everything is set up. So I realize that we are a couple minutes after time. I want to respect everybody's time here. Stevie, it is always fun doing these with you.
Girl, this one we came in hot. Whereas, but it's been a lot of fun. I think we always need more time for some of the additional questions, but I love the questions that we get coming in. We try and do one of these types of webinars every 4 months or so, just to try and answer your questions about, do I need GIS? What does GIS stand for? So please submit questions for this and or future webinars. You can send it to myself or Elisa, and we're happy to answer those questions and include those in webinars upcoming.
Sounds great. Thank you, and thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy days. We look forward to connecting after the webinar, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, Elisa.
Bye-bye.